Hello, my name is Muhammad Zaman bin Hasanuddin. My number matric is D203131190. Today, I want to talk about introduction and type of barriers to communication. Chapter 4. Introduction. The barrier of communication emerges from the inherent process of sending and receiving information among the human beings. Some of the imperfections arise from different approach of thinking of all the individuals, inadequacy of the language, imperfect mastery over the language and expression, limitation of bound rationality. There is a vicious triangle of barriers that form an integral part of every human being, which consists of the three aspects known as thinking, saying, and doing. Example, what we think we do not say, what we say we do not do. Type of barrier to communications. Capability of having a good communication is a personal trait. Some of the barriers to effective communication take place at the following three levels: personal barriers to communication, group barriers to communication, organizational barriers to communication.
Hello guys, my name is Muhammad Zaid Zalfan bin Muhammad Safai. My matric number is D203130008. Today I want to talk about personal barriers to communication. Some features of personal barriers in communication. We have common personal barriers. First, selective attention, lack of knowledge, lack of vocabulary, lack of listening skills. Personal barriers in communication can be found at the individual level, senior level, or a subordinate level, which is shown as below. First, barriers at the individual level. We have 5 different barriers in effective communication. First, physical, cultural, organizational, interpersonal, and linguistic. Communication barriers are the obstructions that are caused during the process of transmission of message, during encoding or decoding of ideas, words, or phrases. Next, these communication barriers are also known as semantic barriers that can take the following different form. A badly expressed message, for example, lack of clarity in message, lack of precision, lack of coherence, use of jargon, and many more. Next, assumption not clarified. Generally, messages are based upon some assumption. If the message to be delivered is not communicated to the receiver, then it may lead to some incomplete process if a transmission or wrong interpretation of the message. Next, faulty translation. The words or phrases used, the message must be familiar to the receiver so that he may understand and respond to it well, which call for a great mastery and adaptability of a sender to use the appropriate language. Next, use of specialist language. It is very common that specialists use a language that works according to his profession. For an instance, the language used by an MBA is completely different to that of an engineer. Second, barriers at the level of seniors. This could be, first, attitude of the seniors. If the attitude of seniors is not very collaborative with the juniors, either because of the lack of awareness or due to some personal issues, then message will not deliver freely from one person to another, and that should happen in a well-structured organization. Next, insistence on proper channel of communication. It has been observed that many of the seniors like to stay within the defined lines of communication according to the formal code of conduct, as they do not prefer bypassing the lines of communication, as it will lead to the thwarting of the authority. Next, fear of challenge to the authority. It is the tendency of seniors that they tend to hold off difficulties of some information, as it may disclose their weakness. Next, lack of confidence in the subordinate. Some seniors assume that the juniors are less competent and do not prefer their passing down of the information, as it leads to higher rise of misusing and leaking of information. Next, ignoring communication. It has been observed that some seniors in the office deliberately ignore the information from their subordinates so they could maintain their importance. This has a two-way effect because it creates the barriers in the minds of juniors to share any information in the future. Next, lack of time. Many times it has been seen that seniors are overburdened with the responsibility of high work pressure, so they do not have any time to provide information downwards, either upwards or horizontally. Lack of awareness. Some seniors do not favor the importance and viability of conducting a smooth flow of information within and outside of the organization, which blocks the flow of communication in the organization. Next, barriers at the level of subordinates. We have 4 distinguishing personal barriers in communication: fear of challenge of authority, lack of incentive, unwillingness to communicate, less faith on subordinate. Next, unwillingness to communicate. It is a rule of company that if any employee feels embarrassed to give the information, then he will not divulge it or delay its delivery to the assigned department. Next, last, lack of incentive. When there is a situation of up and down of information in line of command and control, lack of motivation occurs.
Okay, hello, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Asif bin Yusri. My serial number D203 12921. Okay, today I want to talk about a group barrier to a communication. This barrier occurs when there is an interaction between the group of employees and the members from different section, department, or within a team that have different members from different functional specification of the organization. Okay, there are 7 types of the barrier. Number 1, a premature evaluation of the sender. This happens when the looks of or the initial introduction of the subject is not on the line and seem to be unimpressed according to the set of standard, and where the receiver is already done with the prior analysis of the sender. Number 2, inattentive in listening. When the receiver is not able to give sufficient attention, the message may be failed to register in his mind. Number 3, loss during transmission of the message. This happens when a message has to pass through several departments of an organization structure. While with the writer message, loss generally occurs due to the difference of interpretation, meaning, and the translation of the message. Number 4, loss of retention. Retaining of message for long in the memory it seems to be a difficult process. Number 4, loss of retention, and number 5, undue reliance of written words. It often seen that sender put undue importance over the written message. Number 6, distrust of the communication of the communicator. It happens when the person who sent the message is very prone to cancelling and delaying the messages. And the last one, failure to communicate. Once missing links get established, then even a second message can evoke the right response. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Wasman Shahruddin. My metric number is D20212739. Today, I want to present the subtopic 2.5, that is organizational barriers to communication. The organizational structure of the firm are designed to support and promote company objectives. And the objective of any organization define the work system such as a given set of policies, procedure, norms, and of behavior, and the code of conduct to achieve the objective of corporate. Some of the major organizational barriers are, and the first is an organizational policy. Organizational policies help in understanding of facilitating the strategic measure for the better working of industry. Organizational policy may sure support the flow of information in all directions, such as external communication and internal communication, and also covering downward, upward, and horizontal communication flow as well. And the next is organizational rules and regulation. Many times there are certain rules and regulation of the company that come between the three flow. Business communication requires the proper communication channel. Such rules and procedure inhibit the free flow of communication, which requires the current update to bring them in accordance with the demand and strategies accomplishment. And the next is status relationship. There has been a complementary relation between the function and communication. As a difference in the level, functionaries get greater, so does the possibility of breaking down communication between them keep the getting higher. Okay, and the next is complexity of organization structure. The organization that comprise many layers of the department structure lead to delay in the flow of the message from the sender to other receiver. At the other end, it also increases the rate of risk in the distortion in the message increase manifold while traveling from the one end to another. And the next is organizational facilities. Organizational facilities in any firms include the usual for the meeting and conference room, complaints, and all suggestions sim. And the fourth, organizational measure increase the more option for open the door policies mandated by senior managers and executives. And the next is gateway for effective communication. Development and revising the better knowledge and regarding the various barriers to communication leads to the management device and overcome these communication barriers. It is very much required for every communicator to take specific immediate steps to improve the condition and vanish the heartless effective communication. And the next is principle of a good communication. Communication is directly influenced by the ability to articulate issues consciously and recovery is to receiver. In the word phrase, they are familiar with a soul as a appreciate them to intended course and action. Therefore is a powerful skill calculative. And the next is a 7 features communication completeness. And the first is conscious conscience. Conscience relates to the delivering of the message in the fewest words and making it more understandable to receiver. And the number 2 is consideration. Consideration is a prepare of message should be done while keeping the receiver in mind, and the sender should place themselves in the receiver's position, visualize their receiver needs and wants. Number 3 is a concreteness. Concreteness in a message requires specification, definition, and a vivid nature. The communicator should avoid ambiguous while making the general statement. And the next is clarity. Clarity is to maintain the clarity is a message for some special effect and require to check that if the message that is being delivered across the receiver indicate background and opinion. And the next is courtesy. Courtesy comes from one's innate desire to respect others. It helps us in bringing of the new friend to strength of an old friendship, but it requires an individual to develop new attitude and to be sensitive to others. And the next is correctness. The last and the most important, the correctness of the message that should be done in the perfect way. Sometimes the message may be correct, but it might fail and on the grammar front, which may reflect by negative trait like insulting, humiliating, and overbearing to the receiver. And the next is a 4S communication. 4S communication is a shortness, strange, and simplicity. Shortness is a means refer to the economies of words. It's a convey that the message should be as brief and as possible. And simplicity is a meaning impress. They are famous words as the keys principle in communication. It is said that the message should be keep short and simple. And the next is strange. Strange in the content of the message easily. It's even about the adaptability of the ideas. The message themselves should deliver the conversation and to the receiver. And the next is sincerity. And the last, make sure the quality and sincerity in the message that message that everyone and especially the receiver of the message. Thank you. That's all.